Are you trying to find a new job? Did you know that there's recruiters and headhunters out there that might make your job a little bit easier? In this video, I got a chance to sit down with my good friend Eden Shuster from Eden Capital Careers. So in this video, Eden reveals all the secrets to help you maximize your chances of getting a new job. And so if you're looking for a new position, if you're not looking, but you're always just curious or open to new opportunities, then definitely watch this video because Eden just shares a wealth of information and really, really good information that over my entire course of my career, I was not even aware how all these things work. So very, very important stuff, very, very useful things, especially if you're trying to find a new job. I hope you enjoy this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like on this video if you do get value, share with anybody you know that is actively or inactively trying to find a job. Very, very helpful tips here. And most importantly, if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to Eden. Everything's linked down in the description down below. I hope you enjoy.
A bit about myself. My name is Eden, like you mentioned and pronounced perfectly. I run Eden Capital Careers, and I'm a career engineer who helps other companies find very niche technical talent for their teams. We'll talk a little bit about that because there's a misconception about recruiters that they help candidates find jobs, when really it's the other way around. They help companies find candidates. So it's a very small but important distinction. We'll talk about that so that you know how to interact with recruiters when you're speaking with them.
Yeah, I think
A
that's
co-
very critical because, like, I don't know, through my job search, my entire career, I haven't applied to a whole lot of jobs. I probably worked in 5 companies over my entire uh, 12, 14-year career here. And but most of the time, it's like when I got my very first job at Boeing, um, that came in through a program that I was as an intern. So there was a minority thing, and so they came to my university, and I went to like a SHIP, if you remember, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers.
oh yeah.
It's a professional organization. So they came to like one of those. I applied, they reached out, and then I got a job, and then that turned into a 6-year career. And then as I kept transitioning, it was either through like networking events or just I never applied directly to jobs all that often. I have though, I definitely have, but in those moments that I have, like that recruiter is always like an enigma. You don't know if it's too many
Yeah,
emails. What's the right level of communication? Like when are you bothering them? When are they ghosting you? so
absolutely.
so many questions.
And there's okay, so there's the distinction of who does the recruiter work for. That's a very important thing to keep in mind. And then there's, if they're an external recruiter, if they don't work directly for the company you're applying to, what kind of recruiter are they? And there's two basic kinds. So we'll talk about that too. But let's hit that first question because you brought it up and it's an excellent question. We have internal recruiters and external recruiters. Internal recruiters work for a company in their talent acquisition department to go through resumes, to put out requisitions, to plan headcount for the year, to take a program and say, okay, here's the program we just got awarded or we're applying for. Let's put together a staffing plan. What skill sets do we need to support this program? Now let's go out and hire for them. And what they do is usually it's a big brand name company and they'll put out a couple requisitions for each position. They'll get thousands of applications that come in and then they start reviewing those. They take the top 1, 2, 3% of applications, make sure that those are a good fit, send them to the hiring manager for review. The hiring manager will take it from there, do all the interviews, etc. And they manage the handoffs between the hiring manager and the candidate. On the offer side, everything. That's internal recruiting. It's very different than what I do or what external recruiters or headhunters do. Headhunters are like guns for hire to find very niche, skilled technical talent in whatever department they work in. We do technical talent. And what we do is we usually only work a handful of requisitions across a couple of companies that are very niche. So a bad strategy would be to go to a recruiter or headhunter who has a firm and say, hey, here's my resume, go find me a job. Because that's not the way we work. We have 10 requisitions across 4 companies that are very specific, and we're looking for people to fit those jobs, not the other way around. There is a field where people do that. They call it reverse recruiting or career coaching, and they'll go help you find a job in the market, which is very different.
So if you're looking for a job, then how do you stand out to a headhunter?
So a headhunter will find you. So you need to, one, make sure that okay, a dirty little secret of headhunting is that 90% of the work is done on LinkedIn. Okay,
Okay.
there's LinkedIn has a premium feature called LinkedIn Recruiter. It costs like $10,000 a year for the software license. And what we do is we use that license to find the best candidate fits for the requisition we're working. So the best way for you to make yourself visible to that recruiter is to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is set up in a way that you have all your past experience, skills, accomplishments, companies, and job descriptions on there, your degrees, and you show that you're open for work one way or another. Also, showing you're active on LinkedIn helps a lot, because then a recruiter will say, okay, if I send this person an in-mail, which costs me credits or money, or I send them a connection request, which I only have a limited amount of each month, will I get a response from them? If someone hasn't posted or used LinkedIn in like 4 years, they probably think that they're going to waste that credit and
Mm.
send it into a black hole. So show a little bit of activity, like a post here or there every couple of weeks, just to show that you're on the platform.
So as a courtesy, then it's also a good idea, even if you're not interested in a job, to at least acknowledge and say, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. Just not the right time," or something like
Yeah,
that. Just to help at least
absolutely.
justify.
And you'd be surprised how often people are not interested in a job, and then I hear from them, 12, 16, 18 months later, hey, we just had layoffs, or hey, I just got my performance review, I got another 2% raise, I can't keep doing this every year for 2% more, I'm looking for a new position now. You reached out to me a year ago. That's like probably 50% of my communication is people who come back after a year or so and say, and then it's nice that they responded to me back then, because we have that ongoing conversation now in LinkedIn.
Okay. Now, so let's put a value to resume versus LinkedIn profile. Where should you be investing your calories?
What a good question. Excellent question. Your LinkedIn profile will get you found. The next step is your resume must be tuned in perfectly with all the information I mentioned, because that's the next step. Here's how it would go, okay? I reach out to you and say, hey, Alex, I have this amazing opportunity. It's for an Atlassian, a VP of Atlassian at this company that does Agile. They're looking for someone with exactly your skill set. It pays XYZ. Are you interested in new opportunities at this time? And you say, you know what, Eden, I wasn't looking, but that sounds like something that's right up my alley. I'm open to having a conversation about it. Then I say, perfect, send me your resume. I'll make sure that it's a good fit. And then let's set up a time to talk about it. I go through the resume, and now another dirty little secret of recruiting. Recruiters, on average, right or wrong, there's just too many candidates out there to review. They spend about 10 seconds on their initial review of a resume to make sure this person is a fit. If they check those basic boxes in those first 10 seconds, they dive deeper into the details. And I'll come back to what those 10 seconds look like, okay? Once I make sure it's a fit, we set up a conversation. It's usually 15 to 20 minutes. I get a good reading for who you are, because we want to make sure that we're setting people up with our hiring managers who are good cultural and technical fit. So I'll ask about, for instance, the different methods of Agile you used. What kind of scale did you integrate them in? How big were the teams? Did you run sprints, etc.? Whatever technical questions I can ask. And then I'll get a good feeling for who you are on a cultural side. Are you someone that people would like to work with? It's very important that when we submit a candidate to a hiring manager, they show up excited, interested in the opportunity, educated about the role in the company. If they show up and they're like, oh, I'm not really sure what I'm interviewing for, someone submitted me for this role, the headhunter looks terrible. So we are that first step to make sure that once they already get in the room with the hiring manager, they're excited and educated about the role.
So is there a benefit to applying to a job directly versus working with someone like you?
For the company, there's a hierarchy of who they consider on the candidate side. So that's a good question too. Basically, there's different levels for who gets priority in a app candidate pool. It starts with internal hires. They're always going to get priority.
Like
If you're
people moving around the company internally.
people moving around the company. Sometimes there's layoffs. They put a bunch of people in a pool that need new positions. Those are number one priority. How do we keep these people employed? Is there another opportunity for them in another sector or another division of the company? To keep those people employed, they get top priority. Then there's people in the company looking for career progression. They get second priority. Then there's internal referrals, which means that, Alex, you work at a company, you're going to refer me to a position at that company, you vouching for me and you advocating for me, that's the next priority. Then after that come people submitted by headhunters who are on contract with that company to find that niche talent. And the reason that they get next in line instead of external applicants is because a lot of the legwork was already done. That they've been interviewed, they've been vetted, we made sure that they're the right fit for the company and the hiring manager. And so instead of going through the 800 other applications, here's someone that is already vetted. The hiring manager will look at them next.
That's
And
crazy. So if you literally go the traditional way, you are at the bottom of that list.
you are at the bottom of the list, and it can still work. You can still get a position that way, but it's a numbers game. You better
Mm.
be ready to submit hundreds of applications and get a handful of interviews and then kill it on those interviews. If you don't have a headhunter or an internal person going to bat for you and pushing you on a weekly basis through the pipeline, you're really starting at the bottom of the list.
So how do I know you find folks, but how do I maximize my chances of then helping become discovered? Is it literally just being active on LinkedIn and having a good profile, or is there another secret or anything else I can help?
Having a good profile is the key. So any tools you worked with, recruiters use keyword searches. Okay, so they take a Boolean search, they put it into the search engine in LinkedIn Recruiter, and it pulls up like people whose profiles hit this, and this condition. And usually what we're looking for is degree, job title, and then specific tools. So if I'm looking for a CNC machinist or a mechanical engineer working switchboards, I'm going to be looking for, let's use a mechanical engineer version, a mechanical engineering degree, someone who's worked as a job title mechanical engineer or mechanical designer, and then has specific keywords. So switchboard designer or certain protocols used in switchboards. For CNCs, I'm going to be looking for specific CNC machines, the different tools that they've used to program CNCs. And those are the keywords that'll help you come up in that search.
Any red flags? Anything that you look at and you're like, nope, skip, swipe.
Yeah, great question. Big things that will really help you have a profile picture.
No,
There's a
the
lot of,
opposite. The opposite.
yeah, good
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
The biggest red flag is job hopping. I know that with the pandemic and everything that we've gone through over the last couple of years with tech layoffs, etc., it's hard to show continuity of a position or tenure at a company. But when we present a candidate to a client, correct or not, it's very important for them to see that if they hire you and they pay a headhunter a fee to find you, and they're about to spend money on training and development, they know you're going to stick around for at least 2 to 3 years. Otherwise, they're wasting that money paying a headhunter
Yeah.
to find you. So continuity is the most important thing. If we see you job hopping every 1 or 2 years, we're not going to be able to present you to a client.
Okay. So that's a really good tip and advice to have. When it comes to negotiating salary, you mentioned like they're paying you a fee. Does that impact the total salary in any way, in any capacity?
Excellent question. So there's two types of external headhunters, okay? Before we spoke about internal headhunters versus external headhunters. On the external side, there's two different business models. There's something called staffing or staff augmentation, which is very common in the world of technicians or admin work or finance jobs. And then there's headhunting, which is direct placement, we call it. On the staffing and staff augmentation side, what happens is, Alex, you spoke about Boeing earlier. Boeing would come to a staffing company and say, "Hey, we have this contract spinning up. We need, 100 factory technicians. We're willing to pay each one of them $60 an hour." On the staffing side, there's a staffing company that goes out and hires those technicians to work for the staffing company, not for Boeing,
Yeah, as a contractor.
as a contractor.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've been in that boat my 1 year when I was
Okay,
there too.
perfect. So let's talk about how you were hired by that contractor. They know that their budget is $60 an hour. They're going to try to find someone to do the job with experience at the lowest pay possible
Like
because
40 or something.
yeah, at 40, let's say. And they know that it's going to cost them about $10 an hour to employ this person because they have to spend money on benefits, on sick time, on everything, okay? Taxes, etc. And then that person goes and works in the Boeing building. Boeing pays them $60 an hour, and they make that extra $10 above their float, we call it. That's their margin. So they're incentivized to find someone to do the job for the least amount of money possible. You should know that
Because
if
they get to keep that profit then.
they keep the profit. Exactly.
Okay. So if you're
So
really skilled, then you might not want to go down that path.
yes, or you should know that you're going down that path and know that you have extra margin here that you can take away from the contracting company, and it's still, they'll still make a margin that's worth making a placement. Now, here's something to
Okay.
keep in mind. If you are at the offer stage with a staffing company or contracting company, that means the hiring manager at Boeing already said they really want you. They're going to try to make that deal no matter what, even if it cuts their margin in half. You now have really good leverage to ask for more pay. It doesn't affect Boeing. There's a good chance the hiring manager at Boeing won't even know that this conversation is happening, but you take away from the margin that the staffing company makes, and they're still going to want to place you and make that deal. So you need to know what kind of contract vehicle your contractor company is taking on. If they're a staffing company, you have really good leverage to negotiate once you have an offer. Okay? That's not what I do. That's staffing. You'll hear of huge names in the industry, these very
Yeah,
big.
like your Deloittes and stuff like that, I think,
Yeah,
maybe?
well, Deloitte is a big accounting company, and they actually use a lot of contractors. But you'll hear of like Modus and Attico and Nelson Technologies, and
Tata in any way? The
I think
TCS?
so. Aerotech, if you've heard of
Yeah.
Aerotech
I've
and
I've
Aero,
heard of Aerotech, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm familiar
that's
with
what
some of
they
them.
do. Yeah,
Okay,
and
but that's not what you do. What do
yeah,
you
that's
do?
not what I do. But they're great companies. There's still a place in the business for this model. They have to obviously make a profit. Everyone has to, make money and succeed, and they have families to feed. And they have advertising budgets, and they pay your benefits, and they take on all the risk from a liability side, and they have insurance to cover that risk. So it's a very valid business model.
Yeah, and I
What
think
we
it's one that's important to talk about though real quickly because I think and what I'm seeing right on my networks on LinkedIn is like people are just like they've been applying and applying and applying, nothing is catching. And so in an act of I don't want to say desperation, but just in an act of like I just need a job, you start reaching out to other like sourcing companies and stuff like that. So I think it's critical to know how that works as well or how to navigate that because it is a way into a company. And I've seen people get converted from coming in like that and then eventually getting employed full time.
Absolutely. It's a great way to get into a company. My brother's actually in one of these positions right now. Um, it's an excellent way to get into the company, and there's nothing wrong or nefarious with this business model. You just need to understand what leverage you have when you're entering those negotiations. Okay. Yes, yeah, that's not what I do. But I'll go over what I do. Conversions, since you brought it up. Once that person's worked in the company for 6 or 8 or 12 months, it's in the contract between Boeing and the staffing company that they can either convert them for a fee or convert them for free at certain parts of the process. So
So is that
usually
like
they'll
that
take
whole contract to hire? Is that statement? Is that what
exactly.
that does? Okay.
Exactly. And most contracting positions you get are actually contract to hire. If you kill it and your hiring manager loves you, he'll find a way to bring you on permanently. They don't want to pay the staffing company in perpetuity that margin. They want to eventually try before they buy, bring you on, and hire you direct placement for them.
Wait, so that brings up a good point then. So that staffing company doesn't get paid up front, but rather through the duration of the contract.
Exactly. They get paid
Okay.
every month. And another service they provide, which is high risk for them, is factoring on that payroll. So they have to pay their contractors every 2 weeks. They get paid once a month. So they have
Mm.
to float that money over to the contractor ahead of time, which has risk associated with it. And depending on how many contractors you have, that can be millions of dollars in payroll every month that go to contractors. So that's another service they provide.
That's a very big IOU.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of risk in that staffing model. Usually, if you go into that business, you have a big financial
Capital.
backing from a
Yeah.
bank, and you can float that payroll. And they lose margins on each piece of this process, on the benefits, on the factoring, on everything. So take that into account. Okay, so what do? I do something very different. It's called direct placement, direct placement. And you can ask a headhunter you work with whether they're direct placement or contractor slash staffing. No one will have a problem answering that question for you. It's totally polite and okay to ask that. What we do is a company will say, hey, I have this position up. I've been looking for the right person for it for, 3, 6 months. I can't find the right skill set. It's too niche. I need a license in this area, in this state. That's very hard to come by. And people just aren't applying to the positions. And when people apply, they're the wrong people for the position. Time to go get a headhunter to find this person for us. And my contract with the company is called direct placement. We get paid a one-time fee at the start of the contract when that person goes to work for the company. So let's say Boeing hires me to find them like a very specific metallurgy specialist in composites that's great at doing a certain kind of like UAV design. Example. I will go and find the right people who are not applying to positions, who do this work at other companies. I'll reach out to them and say, hey, I see you're already doing this work. Here's another opportunity I have from a client. Here's the career progression they offer. Let's say they're an early stage startup. Here's the equity you could get from it. They're expecting this kind of growth, and you'll get to lead up this department. And my job is to entice people who are not looking for work to open their eyes to this new opportunity. Then I bring them to the client after I interview them. I write up a full profile. Here's who they are. Here's what motivates them. Here's their salary expectations. Here's their relocation availability, etc. Submit it to the client. And on a weekly basis, I'm pushing with my client to get this person interviewed through the different cycles of interviews, get them an offer, and then I help the person negotiate the right offer for them and submit it to the client. I get paid a one-time fee that's like a referral fee, and the person goes to work directly for the client, not for me. I don't have any float or anything. My fee is usually between 20 and in the industry, okay? So not me specifically, but headhunters charge 20 to 30% first year salary as a referral fee. Now, that percentage is of that person's first year compensation. What does this
The
mean?
total or just the salary part?
The salary part.
Okay, just the number part. Okay.
Yeah. So let's say you're making 100 grand on your salary. My fee
You
is
give
going to be that 25 grand to that
okay.
company to find you. Now, what does this mean? It means that the more money you make at the company, the more money I make as a fee. So our incentives are fully aligned. I know what the salary band is. I'm going to try to get you an offer that's good for you and good for my client, okay? Because I want them to keep using me moving forward.
Right.
So I want to make sure that you get a fair offer. You get every penny you deserve. You don't get any more because I want them to keep using me. And I'm going to help you negotiate the right salary for you.
That makes a lot of sense. So I kind of feel that I like that path more than the first
Yeah.
model we were talking
Those
about.
candidates do. Yeah.
Yeah, because one, you're working with the company directly, and two, I feel like there's more ownership, I guess, at that point, right? Because you're directly going in there, and it's just somebody literally almost kind of like ballet door opening the door for you and going like, walk this way, like we found it
Yeah,
for you.
exactly. And the
But does
company
that
likes
mean
it.
that
Yeah.
that means then that you're obviously looking for very skilled employees, right? Like you don't care so much whether they're unemployed or employed, but rather you're looking for that specific skill set and you're trying to incentivize them to say, hey, here's another golden opportunity, potentially.
Exactly. I don't care if they're employed or unemployed, but I will say the positions where headhunters like us are used the most are positions where if they're posted online, the right people aren't so available in the market that they're applying to that position, which
But doesn't
usually means that they're
that makes it
employed.
more expensive though, right?
What do you
For the
mean?
per Well, like if I'm paid, let's just say 200 grand, and you're like, hey, here's a perfect Atlassian position, it's for a VP or whatever. I'm like, well, you gotta for me to uncomfort myself because I'm in something comfortable now. Like, well, I'm gonna
Oh,
charge you more
great point.
premium. Like, I won't move unless it comes at a nice package for me.
Absolutely. It does make it way more expensive for the company to find that person, but that's what the market will bear. And when we go and we get a job rec from our clients, we educate them on the market. We say, oh, you're looking for a professional engineer with licenses in XYZ in this state with 10
There's like
plus
10
years of
people.
experience. You're not going to find it at the salary range you're trying to. I'm sorry. And I'm not going to go work a position, waste the time, budget, everything to try to find you someone that you won't be able to find. And when I do find them, you won't be able to entice them away from their current
Yeah,
opportunity.
because unlike folks that are, like, unemployed and, like, trying to find a job, this model, you're trying to really incentivize somebody to, again, give up something comfortable to potentially something comfortable to go do something else.
Absolutely.
But those people know their worth.
They know their worth, they're harder to find, and usually, since we only work very experienced positions, they're entrenched in a company where they've been there for 6 to 10 years and they're later on in their career and they're comfortable, like you mentioned, they're reluctant to leave. So you have to find them a great opportunity and you have to present it to them the right way, that it's a no-brainer, and that at least they'll take this conversation with the hiring manager. And now the company comes into play. The hiring manager has to be almost act like he's being interviewed. He's pitching a position in a company to someone who's not desperate for work. He has to do a good job selling it.
That is super interesting. Again, I've never gone down that path, and it's really interesting. So I'll share a little story. So maybe 3 or 4 months ago, somebody did reach out to me asking me like, "Hey, we're looking for a Jira admin of your caliper," and they were trying to recruit me, but I'm like, "Well, how much are you paying, right?" And I'm like, "Well, how much do you make?" And I told them my number, and they're like, "Okay, we can work with that." And I was surprised because I was like, "Well, my number's high." Because I'm very specialized at this point, right? I am in a very niche, very specialized market, in what I do with Atlassian right now in Jira. And but yeah, no, it was interesting that they're actually willing to work with me, and now that makes a little bit more sense. Because usually, like, you throw out a number that high, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna go find the cheapest candidate," because you're trying to
Since you
maximize
brought
your
it up.
margins. Remember, from the
Yeah.
first firm.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're a direct placement headhunter and they want to get you the best salary possible because it's in
So
their best interest.
So I guess as a good takeaway, right? Because I know we're at the time here. As a good takeaway would be if a recruiter reaches out to you, I think it's a safe thing to do is ask: Are you direct to hire? Are you staffing? Like, try to understand that background of that recruiter, so you can then understand how to proceed.
Since you brought it up, a few things, what you want to ask a recruiter, what you don't want to talk about to a recruiter. You never need to tell a recruiter how much money you are making now. Okay, so the recruiter who asked you that, you don't need to share that information, and we won't take it personally if you don't tell us. In fact, there's a handful of states, California being one of them, where you're not allowed to ask a candidate how much money they're making. So we're not gonna usually ask you how much are you making now, because with the remote work and relocation, it's too complicated to figure out our liability. We Most headhunters will not ask you how much money you make, and if they do ask you, you don't need to provide that value. What you can ask is, what's the range for the position? Okay, I have no problem disclosing that range, and usually that range is quite broad. Like, I'm talking like 50, $60,000 sometimes, because a client will say to us, hey, we're looking for the structural engineer. They can have 2 to 12 years of experience. We'll hire them at any of these levels. But know that if that range is $60,000 deep, and you have 3 years of experience, you're not going to get the top of the range. It's just they're giving us a broad range to work with because they're looking for a broad experience of candidates, a broad caliber of candidates in terms of depth of experience. So ask for the salary range. Most recruiters will give it to you, and then they'll be honest with you and say, well, it's depending on experience. And that's what that range means.
That's awesome. So that's really really good. I think you provided a lot of valuable insight here, especially since I've never seen this side of the process, right? I've always, again, either through networking, because like a recruiter came to a hiring event, or I applied directly to the website and just the internal HR talent acquisition team reached out, right? I don't know that I've ever gotten a job indirectly like this. So it's a really good perspective because I don't think it's something that we talk a lot about. I know in my previous history, in my, again, 12, 14-year career, I've only ever heard the word headhunter once. and it wasn't in a positive light. So this kind of does shine a good positive light. And I don't know that recruiters or headhunters get enough help in that respect.
Yes, let's talk a little bit about that positive versus negative light. Headhunters have like this horrible stigma and like vibe associated with them. Okay, it's people have no trust of headhunters in the industry, and it's usually because of the staffing model type people who reach out to them and try to make a margin. But we fall somewhere between. I've heard people say like used car salesmen and like lawyers or like dentists. Like who do you not want to talk to? Okay. We get a bad name, and usually it's because there's no barrier to entry. So many people become headhunters that it puts the burden on a few really good headhunters in the industry to try to improve the name for the rest of the industry. And ghosting is a huge issue, and candidates are fed up with it, and they get sick of recruiters reaching out to them, and then they say, yeah, I'm interested. Then the recruiter dives into the resume, sees they're not a fit, and they never respond to them back. What I want to highlight is that's wrong. That shouldn't happen. But the opposite happens even more. Okay. You would be surprised how many times I reach out to candidates and they say, yeah, I'm interested in this position. Please submit me. I speak to them. Everything goes great. They're booked on the calendar with my hiring manager. They don't show up for the interview. I look terrible. I submitted this person that's not reliable. I reach out to them, no response ever again. And it usually means like they thought about it. They're not really open to relocation. They're not really open for this position because of the salary range. Be a good candidate. Be the candidate you want recruiters to be to you. Treat people the same way you want to be treated. If you're not interested in a position, just tell your recruiter that. Nothing's worse than like setting up a candidate with a hiring manager and they don't connect. Let people know it's all about trust and treating people the right way, and it'll improve, their interactions on both sides of the fence.
So you get to interact with the hiring manager directly though.
Correct. On a weekly
Not you
basis.
don't you're not going through like an internal HR person that has like a list of jobs.
It's possible. We try to avoid that. We
Mm.
usually get into HR people inside the company, they're incentivized to fill the role themselves. So there's a little bit of like
Competition.
sometimes a competition feeling, like a
Yeah.
gatekeeper. They don't want you working with the hiring managers. We get into a company by talking to the hiring managers, telling them what value add we bring to the table, why we're going to find them a better person than anyone else. And then they make the HR team work with us and get the contract signed.
Nice. Well, any final tip, advice for someone
Let's
looking for a
see.
job next year? What they can do?
Yeah, I want to go over a couple just quick tips, okay? Your resume length. How long should your resume be? There's a lot of different ideas out there about, can you have 2 pages? Can you have 3 pages,
I've seen like
etc.
5 pages recently.
Yeah, 5 pages, and it happens, and there's no like you must have 1 page on your resume, or recruiters won't look at it. No, quite the opposite. If you've worked in a bunch of different roles and you want to show your value, that's okay. I would say use guidelines to determine how long your resume should be. If you have more than 7 years of professional experience, you can go to that second page. Okay. These are just rough numbers, approximately. 15 years of experience, you worked at a bunch of companies, different job roles. You want to talk about the results you brought to that company. You can go to 3 pages. 25 years plus, 4 pages is fine. If you have 3 pages, but 2 or 3 years of experience, that's going to be tough, because what we see is 1 page with experience and like 1 year working somewhere. It's too much detail for a resume. Showing continuity is super important on your resume and on your LinkedIn. It's like the number one red flag if you're hopping around. So if you've worked a bunch of different job titles at one company, make sure it's very clear that that's all one company. Some people will
Mhm.
put the job title and then the company on the other end, and it looks like they're jumping around all the time. And in that first 10 seconds, that can look very confusing. So do company indented, the job titles you've done there with the details of each job title, so that we see, oh, he's actually been at the same company for 6 years. This company will invest in him. He's a good candidate. He has tenure.
So
10
hold up.
second review. Yeah.
So company to company is not so good, but within the company it is more okay to have just different roles, different responsibilities.
Yeah, not just okay. It's a good thing. It shows career progression. It shows that they trusted you to go do the next thing. Okay. So it's good to show that progression within a company.
Yeah. So, but it's not okay for you to be working in 7 different companies in a 7 month span.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Or even 7 companies in a 10 or 12-year span. It doesn't look good, okay? You wanna try to show 3+ years of experience in each company.
In each company. All right.
Yep. 10-second review, we're gonna look for your job title, we're gonna look for your tenure, we're gonna make sure you meet the minimum educational requirements for the position.
Is that
That's
still a
the
thing?
num
Do we still look at that?
We still look at that for, engineering roles, which is,
Okay.
what I hire for.
Are we
If
looking
you
at GPA at all, or is it just like 10 plus
oh,
years?
we They only look at GPA if you're fresh out of college.
Fresh out. Okay.
If you've had a year or 2 of experience, remove the GPA, unless you
So,
wanna show, like, dean's list, honor
so
roll,
I'm
whatever.
assuming then, as you're in your line of work, then you're not looking for fresh out of college type of spots either.
Exactly. We don't do that because the company can find those people easily. Why would they pay me a fee to go get them?
Right. Okay. So yeah, you're literally they're consulting with you to find that needle in that haystack because it can
Exactly.
take time and effort and resources.
A
Okay,
long time.
that makes sense.
And the kind of work we do, an internal talent acquisition team doesn't have the time to do. Usually, our clients have a HR team of 3 or 4 people. They do payroll, benefits, employee disputes, onboarding, training and development, etc.
Right.
They don't have time to go looking for passive candidates, reaching out to each one of them, seeing if they would be interested in this new opportunity. And that's a full-time job for a few people. So they use an external firm to go do that work.
That makes sense. So you're really like the guy from Squid Games that goes and finds the players.
Yes, I need to try to watch the second season. My wife won't watch it, so I
Oh,
need to watch it
I
alone.
just finished it, so no spoilers, but you should watch it.
Okay, no spoilers. Also, we had a new baby 3 months ago, so
Oh, congrats.
we're like very careful about what TV we watch. We're watching like animal shows and like National Geographic things that like the baby's turning and watch. He's not watching Sopranos and Squid Games with us.
All right, I probably shouldn't put this on the internet, but yeah, my 8-year-old's definitely watching Squid Games with us.
I feel like eight's a good age to do that. That's fair. They understand it's fake.
Yeah, Squid Games is it's gory, but it's not, and it's violent, but it's not like bad.
It's not cruel or
Yeah, it's
like
not cruel. Like they do a lot of
dark.
it off screen, right? Like you see a lot
Yeah,
of blood, but it's not like you're seeing people being decapitated or something.
I can't wait to watch the second season. Don't
Yeah,
say
it's
anything
great.
about it.
Oh, it
A
is great.
couple more quick
Stay off
things.
social media. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, a couple more quick tips I want your viewers to know. Minimum requirements are sometimes more fluid than we realize, okay? If you have like a minimum requirement of a master's degree in electrical engineering on the job description and you don't meet that requirement, but you happen to have 10 more years of experience in what they're looking for in the basic requirements, you'll be surprised how fluid that educational degree is, okay? They'll take you still if you have the 10 years experience, but you don't have that master's degree. So apply if you're unsure.
I like how that rule usually applies for external hires, but not for internal hires.
Yes. For internal hires, they're very strict. Usually, what they'll do is a trade off experience versus degree. Like a master's degree is worth 2 years of experience for internal hires. Usually, that's the trade off.
Yeah, I remember one time I was in a conversation with HR and I had years of experience, but I had years of experience, but in the wrong department. I had the engineering
Mhm.
degree, but not the work skill. And I remember when I got the job, the recruiter was like, "You're so lucky we're letting you keep your salary." And
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
"What?"
And now you work for yourself and you don't have to worry
Yeah,
about these things.
yeah, no, I don't have
That's
to
what
worry about any
happens.
of that.
Let's see. We talked about the hierarchy of candidate priority. It goes internal referral, headhunter, application. Um, what my submissions look like when we submit you to a client. We're gonna find out your background summary, everything that's your professional background, what motivates you, or why you're looking for a new position, or why are you open to a new position. We will include your salary expectations. So if you give a salary expectation to a headhunter, they're going to put that on the submission. So beware, that could disqualify you if you fall way above the range. So it's okay to ask what the range is, or you could be a cheap hire for that person. Usually the negotiation will come later. 2025 hiring, it's gearing up to be a really interesting year in hiring. A lot of companies are spinning back up their hiring in Q1. You'll see the best time to apply for a job is Q1 and Q3, okay? January, February, March is when all of the staffing plans for 2025 are going to be made by the different departments. They're going to map out what contracts do we have coming in, what skill sets do we need to fill them. Let's go put out those recs and start
Yeah,
hiring for them.
fresh budgets too.
Fresh budgets. And that happens again in Q3, okay? They're going to reevaluate their staffing plans and put
Because
out
now
new
that we're
ones.
looking at what's left, what did we
Exactly.
not
What's
spend?
left to meet the year? Or we're lagging on this program or that program. What skill
Right.
sets do we need to fill? So focus on the next 3 months. If you're looking to get a job, it's the best time to get hired.
Awesome.
Last thing, soft skills, very important. I know in today's age, we want everyone to have a fair shot at getting a job, and your technical skill sets should speak for themselves. But the truth is, when you get on that video call or in the room with the hiring manager, the way you look them in the eye and shake their hand and smile and show enthusiasm about the job, it does matter. Okay, it's very important that they hire someone they want to work with. So practice those soft skills. And
Yeah,
that's
I've
it.
heard that you know within the first 10, 15 seconds of seeing that first interaction whether you want to work with this person or not.
Exactly. This is someone you're going to be sitting with in an office every day for years, potentially. You want this to be a nice person.
Oh, those water cooler talks, how I missed them.
Yeah. We used to have some good ones. I remember getting to all our meetings like 15 minutes early just to BS with you and chat around the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah, no, I live in that war room.
Yeah. Too many hours. Too many hours.
Oh yeah, too many.
But look, you
But
found your
Eden,
passion. How
I
amazing is
did.
that?
I did, and it's super interesting because I remember being a generalist and now I'm a specialist, and it feels good. It feels good to be good at one thing.
Yeah, and you're known for it, and you're a subject matter expert in this specific thing. It's an amazing skill set you've developed. You should be very proud, and I'm super excited for you that you found the thing you love to do.
Thanks, appreciate it. And well, it was great catching up with you. I know you got to go, so maybe we'll do a follow-up one at some point during the year. But thank you so much for taking the time and educating me, educating this audience here, and hopefully, people usually let me know in the comments whether they got a job or not. So hopefully, some of these tips help them out and they're able to get a job in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are looking for a position, check my website. If we have the position that's right for you, I'll go to bat for you with clients. And if you're hiring anyone, let me know. We're that gun for hire to help you find that perfect person for your team. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to ask any questions. I'll help you negotiate your offers for free. Hit me up with anything you need. I'm here to
And we'll
help.
put all your information down in the description so you can check Eden out.
Alex, thank you for the opportunity. It's been a blast.
Thank you.